Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? Welcome to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. As you can see once again, I'm alone. I'm always alone. At least once a week at this point. Rick currently is on the road. He's driving back home from his family vacation. He will be on next week's show. He's going to be on tomorrow's pod, which is the last regular season pod or fantasy football pod during the actual fantasy football season that we are going to do. Next week, we'll plunge into dissecting what happened this year in fantasy football, how that all relates to you, and how you should approach the upcoming months of fantasy football. As we jump into off-season content for the remainder of our time until the next season starts. So we'll do some recapping then, but this particular episode of the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast, we are going to talk about the Thursday night football game that is on tonight, my friends. And it is going to be interesting. I think we're 5 or 6, 7 hours away from that game, from the Fantasy Football Championship week kicking off. And so we'll talk about the two teams in that matchup, the over-under. I'll make a pick at the end of the game, talk about some fantasy-relevant matchups, some things that you should know heading into this week. Before we do that, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review. Share this pod with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below. As you can see, I got my bubbly, and I'm ready to go. This pod should not take too long. So really excited. Obviously, we talked about our waiver wire show. There's some big news pertaining to this matchup tonight, pertaining to two of the running backs involved. So we'll obviously get to that news as we're talking about the matchup itself. But this is it. You know, the first game of the final week of the fantasy football season is here. If you have a Week 18 championship, change it to Week 17 next year and don't ever do that again. So typically we don't cover Week 18. We take that week off, obviously jump into the offseason content, but Week 17 is the last week that we cover fantasy football content for the regular season. We'll still put out rankings for Week 18, but week 1 through 17 is the weeks that we're really focused on in fantasy football and the league winning pace and the different play that people have. And obviously we'll break all that stuff down as we jump into next week. But this Thursday night football game is the start of that. In the game, it also happens to be the final Thursday night football game of the entire year, which is ironically insane. I can't believe that the playoffs are 2 weeks away. I cannot believe this is our last Thursday night football game of the year. So much different stuff happening. It's just insane that we are already at a point where the NFL season's coming to an end. It feels like we just got here yesterday. But it is exciting to jump into a new off season. Not really. I kind of hate the off season. I wish football was all year round. But anyway. But the final Thursday night football game of the year is between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tennessee Titans. The over-under is 40.5. I'm going to check that because I put that in there on Tuesday. Let's see. Thursday, Cowboys, Titans, over-under. Let's see if it's changed. See if the line has changed. CBS Sports has it at 40. So, half point. I'm going to have to... with Josh Dobbs starting for the Titans, I don't know. I would probably take the under for this game if I was being honest, because I don't know that Tennessee's been terrible lately. They're about to lose their playoff spot, and Dallas scores a lot of points. You know what? I'll take the over. I'll take the surprise over. We'll see what happens. But 40 points. So there should be scoring for at least one team here. But there's a lot of concerning situations for this particular matchup this week. We'll talk about Dallas first, and then we'll talk about Tennessee after. So let's jump into the Dallas Cowboys, who have one Dak Prescott at quarterback. And he's been pretty dang good since coming back from that thumb injury. The big thing with Dak that I find interesting is that he's not. I don't personally think there's going to be a situation where Dak is going to, last week against Philly he had 31, he had 25 the week before, I believe. Is this in? This is our 5-point touchdown league, so the numbers might be a little bit different for you. But he had basically a QB8 and a QB1 performance the past 2 weeks, somewhere in that vicinity. And Tennessee obviously is a good matchup on Thursday Night Football. I don't typically like starting guys on Thursday night, but I think Dak is a wonderful start. I think for Dak Prescott, there's opportunities for him to have success, but then there are just games where he just, like Detroit in Week 7 when he came back from injury, like he scored 13 points. Now it was the week back from injury, so I'll forgive him there. But he only scored 13 points against Detroit, like no. And then he had a game against the Giants where he had 18. So like, to me, it's like he's been a QB1 or better for all of his games since he got back in Week 7, with the exception of 3. So I think against Tennessee, this is a safe like QB7, QB8, QB9 performance. He always is consistent, so like he'll get you 18 to 20 fantasy points, which to me that's what I'm looking for. Like at the quarterback position any week during the season, I'm looking for 18 to 20 fantasy points. If he gets over 20, then you're having a really good week. But around 20 and 4-point touchdown leagues is a really big success. So I roll with Dak. Dak has had a decent season so far. I'm actually curious since Week 7. I'm going to pull those numbers up right now because I'm curious to see since Week 7 where Dak Prescott is on the season. And he is currently QB7. So you have to start him if you have him. Like unless you have somebody who's higher, like I would start Justin Fields over him this week. But Dak's pretty good, and I would roll with him tonight. If he does underperform a little bit, like I said, it's that Thursday night performance crap. But we have 2 running backs for Dallas, or do we have 1 running back for Dallas? Because Tony Pollard's out. Looks like Tony Pollard, from what I see right now, and obviously check it out before the game, it's confirmed. 39 minutes ago, Tony Pollard is going to be out. He will not play Thursday. I feel good about that because I had him, and I traded him away, and I got Alvin Kamara, and Kamara's playing. Tony Pollard is not. I thought Pollard might be a league winner, and if I had Pollard right now, I don't know who I'd be starting. Probably Zay Jones. Maybe. I don't know. Is that a bad thing? Starting Zay Jones? I don't know. But Tony Pollard will not play, which opens up. I don't think Malik Davis is going to, take a bunch of the Tony Pollard work. I really don't. I think all of the work, I think he'll have some opportunities in the offense, but I think Ezekiel Elliott will take the lion's share of the carries for this. So in this game tonight, like if you were starting Zeke, who's the RB20 on the season, Pollard has finished higher. He's been more efficient. He scored more touchdowns. Like he's been better than Ezekiel Elliott. Without him in the lineup, Zeke now takes the main role, or not the main role, but he takes all of the work. So he's going to get the goal line carries. He's going to get maybe some pass catching work, and he's going to get some work on the ground like he always does. So, and the big thing is since week 11, he's had 17, 16, 18, 17, 15, and 13 in PPR leagues. And that, since week 11, would put him in the vicinity of, I believe, a top 10 running back. Let's see the numbers real fast. It puts him at a running back 6. So he's been fantastic since week 11, since he came back from an injury. And he's produced, and now he gets the full opportunity. The concern here is that he is playing a tough matchup versus Tennessee. Tennessee's a good run-stopping team. It's about the only thing that they've done well, and I think Dallas is going to pass early and often tonight. So the hope or the benefit for Zeke is that if he gets Tony Pollard's pass-catching upside, he'll get his 16 to 17 carries. It'll be like old-school Zeke. Can Zeke be a league winner for teams? I believe he can. But like I said, this is a tough matchup on Thursday night. And typically, like what I like to say is you need to temper those expectations going into those matchups, because I'm not going to lie, Ezekiel Elliott could have a bad game tonight. And if that does happen, you get screwed. So it's interesting to see Zeke in that predicament. But he's starting tonight. He's going to get 25 touches. Like, I would be surprised if he doesn't get 25 or more touches. He's going to be a monster. He's got to be in your starting lineup for this week, and I would play him as well. If you have Pollard, obviously yank him out of your lineup. I don't, like, I'd have to see a roster to help you out, but, there's definitely, we talked about on the waiver wire show, there's guys like Tyler Algier. If you picked him up, that guy would be a good play in place of Tony Pollard for the week. Stuff like that. So definitely run out, or you could go out and get Hassan Haskins, who is on the other side, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, so Zeke Elliott, good start. Make sure you pull Tony Pollard out of your lineups because he is out. Let's talk a little bit about the wide receivers. Noah Brown, Michael Gallup don't really have any fantasy relevance. Noah Brown has had weeks where he has put up fantasy numbers. Week 1 and 2, he had 11 and 20. Then he had 10 and 9. And then week 5 to 13 didn't really do anything until he had 12 and 22. Definitely one of those situations where against an easy matchup, he could have a good game, but it's on Thursday Night Football. Michael Gallup is in the lineup. Like, I don't really trust Noah Brown to do anything. He could, but I just don't trust him to do anything. And then the other guy who's really struggled since coming back is Michael Gallup. He came back from injury at 10-8, 3-0, 8, 7, 7, 11, 18, 6, 1, and 13. This is a good matchup for him, but I just haven't seen enough from Michael Gallup in PPR leagues to run him out of the lineup and throw him into the game. So I would say I'm down on Gallup, down on Brown. Either one of those guys, I would just sit him out of your lineup. Don't play him this week. One guy that's got to run, though, CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee has been playing at a league-winning pace the last 2 weeks. Weeks 15 and 16 in the fantasy playoffs. He had 19 and 34, which ranks in PPR formats at the wide receiver position, the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy football. So he's got to be in your lineup. I love CeeDee. It's an easy matchup. He's a top 5 ranked wide receiver this week for me. Like, I would go with CeeDee Lamb easy in this matchup and hope for, a great performance, especially if you have CeeDee and you're in the fantasy championships. Outside of that, not another wide receiver that I really want to start for Dallas, like I said. And then if you have Dalton Schultz, I would saddle him up this week. Like I said, the passing defense of Tennessee is really not great. And, against, like, just to give you the numbers of the fantasy points allowed through 16 weeks, Tennessee ranks against quarterbacks. Hold on a second. My computer's freezing up. Against quarterbacks, Tennessee is the 3rd easiest matchup that you can have. Against running backs, obviously Tennessee is really difficult, but against wide receivers, they are the number 1 matchup. So number 3 against quarterbacks, number 1 easy matchup for wide receivers. And then for the tight end position, they are currently number 5. The number 5 easiest matchup. They give up 11 points a game to the tight ends, and because they are not very good pass catching, it makes it so that a guy like Dalton Schultz is a good run. Obviously, on the season, he's been really disappointing. Tight end 18, he did miss 2 games, but to be honest with you, I think even with those games, it wouldn't have really changed. Like, I think he probably would be in like 12 to 13 area, but I don't think it would have changed all that much. He's had some really good games. He's also had some really bad games. The last couple weeks haven't been great, but against Tennessee, like I said, I would be happy with a 9-10 point performance at tight end, especially if you've been relying on Dalton Schultz on the season. And I think this is a good game to roll him out against. So I think for the Dallas Cowboys, Dalton Schultz, good play. CeeDee Lamb, good play. No other wide receivers. Ezekiel Elliott, good play. No other running backs. And then you got to start Dak. So Dak, Zeke, CeeDee, and Dalton Schultz. If you have the whole Cowboys offense tonight, good luck, because you're probably going to lose. All right. Without further ado, sorry, just taking a drink of my bubbly if you're if you're listening, I was taking a drink of my bubbly. But anyway, let's jump into the other team, which is the Tennessee Titans, who, interestingly enough, have a lot of injuries and a lot of situational stuff. And this is a game where things could go sideways for them. You know, you're looking at a football team who is, I think they're 7-8. I want to take a look at the playoff picture. They got to win this game. They have to win this game in order to really stick with it. And because their division is so putrid, like it's bad. You have teams like the Jaguars, who currently first in the AFC South, who would end up being the 4 seed in the playoffs at this point. But they don't have any. They haven't clinched the playoffs or done anything. They're 7-8 right now. Tennessee Titans, they're also 7-8. So Jacksonville, if they win this week against Houston, who's 2-12, so it looks like Jacksonville could win that game, go 8-8. And then you have Tennessee lose and go 7-9. Jacksonville could make the playoffs, which I've been rooting for. Trevor Lawrence, T-Law in the playoffs, baby. First year without that moron of a coach. But Jacksonville, I like this week. I think if they get a win against Houston, they go 8-8, and then they have a big game against Tennessee, and they could just bury Tennessee and make the playoffs. So that would be fun to watch. But anyway, all my rambling to talk about the Tennessee Titans and their many injuries. Tannehill's out. Malik Willis has been benched in replacement of Joshua Dobbs. Malik Willis is a project third-round quarterback, so I don't like. It sucks that he got benched, but he's the type of player that I think they want to just look at and develop and try to figure out. With that being said, I think a lot of people would have said this game for Malik Willis would have been a start. I would have said no, because Malik, he's a good rushing quarterback, but he doesn't provide anything else. So it's like it's just his rushing, and then he doesn't do anything. He had 2 picks the last game, 7 carries, 43 yards, and a touchdown, only threw for 99 yards. So he's just not there yet as a quarterback, and I think, he definitely needs to be developed a little bit more. Before we can really write him completely off. He's a developmental guy, but he's not playing tonight. He's been benched. Ryan Tannehill is out. So this offense is going to look really bad. I'm not going to lie. They got Josh Dobbs starting at quarterback. No. Not in any world do I want Josh Dobbs starting for me in a fantasy championship. I'm not even going to spend too much time on this. Like, he played for the Steelers last year. I believe he played for the Steelers last year. But anyway, he's been a good backup, but he's not anybody that you want to run out there in your fantasy matchups. In times that he has played before, which has not been a lot. I mean, he hasn't started a game since freaking... I don't think he's started a game ever. This is the first. I think this is the first start of his career. Holy frick! Interesting. So I don't know, but I'm not starting Josh Dobbs, so you can forget about that. I think to talk about this on a more broad level, like Josh Dobbs starting in this game is definitely one of those situations where it's like, it's going to hurt the offense. That's kind of what I'm trying to say here is it's going to really hurt the offense. It's going to make it so that, this team's not going to be efficient. If you have the Treylon Burkses of the world, or, if you have the running backs, if you have whatever it is, if you have an asset on this team that you want to have success, there probably won't be a lot of it tonight. Dallas also happens to be a tough matchup for quarterbacks, a tough matchup for wide receivers, a tough matchup for tight ends, a tough matchup for running backs. And so there's not going to be a lot of fantasy upside for the Tennessee Titans. If you have a Titan, I'm not sure I'm starting any of them, but we'll go through it. So Josh Dobbs, obviously Malik has changed. He's not the starter anymore. Dobbs is going in. He's playing. Think that hurts the offense. I wouldn't start Josh Dobbs in any situation. Some people online might say that, but I am sprinting away from Josh Dobbs. Who's not sprinting in this game? Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is not playing, sprinting, running, doing anything. He is out in this game tonight, which means that the glorious and wonderful rookie Hassan Haskins is going to jump in and take his place. I'm not going to lie. I don't mind it. And there is a chance. Dallas actually is a really tough run defense. But Tennessee, they do one thing. They run the ball. And if they give the ball to Hassan Haskins as much as they have given the ball to Derrick Henry, and he kind of is in the same mold as Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is 6+ feet. This guy, Hassan Haskins, 6+ feet. And Derrick Henry, I think, is 240. This guy's 228. So both kind of built in the same mold a little bit in terms of their build and size. I think they're going to use Haskins to run the rock in this game. I just don't know how much it's going to be a good thing for this team. So I don't know how efficient it's going to be. He had a game earlier in the season. We had 9 carries, 37 yards, so it wasn't bad against Buffalo. But the remainder of the season, since week 2, when he had all that opportunity, he's had 2 weeks where he's gotten 2 carries. So he's got a total of 12, 13 carries on the season. It's a scary game for me to run Hassan Haskins out. He does have fresh legs, so if, you have to do that, you have to do that. But I just don't know. From what we've seen in the 12 carries that he's had on the season, he's been relatively efficient. On the season in 12 carries or 11 carries, he's 4.5 yards a carry. So it's not like he's not good on the ground. I don't know how much pass catching opportunity or upside he's going to get on the season. He currently has 7 catches for 7 yards and 7 catches for 31 yards, no touchdowns. So, this could be an interesting game. I'm curious to see how Haskins plays because he was an interesting prospect coming out of college. A little bit slow, or a little bit on the slower side. I'm just looking at his profile right now on Player Profiler. He's 93rd percentile bench press. Didn't run the 40, so didn't have a speed score. Didn't really do anything else but bench press. College dominator, 64th percentile. College yards per carry, 4.9. That's not very good. College target share, 34th percentile. So not very good for that particular area too. But like I said, got kind of a similar build to Derrick Henry. There could be something here. And if there is, and he comes into the game and he's really good, then that's that. But if Tannehill was in the game and there was other elements going on and they had their full offense like ready to go, outside of Derrick Henry, I would be more interested in Haskins. I picked him up this week to block another team from possibly starting him in case I'm wrong, but he's interesting, but I don't think I'm running him this week. I am rooting for him. I hope he does well, but I just don't think he will. This is a tough matchup against Dallas with an offense with no weapons. You got Treylon Burks, Robert Woods. I'm not even going to look at their numbers. I'm just going to tell you right now, Treylon's got to sit. Robert Woods has got to sit. You don't have a quarterback that can get these guys the ball. I just don't see it, unless there's injuries. I don't know. I probably should check that, but I'm not starting them, so I don't really care to. Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, they just they haven't been good with Tannehill in there. Like Treylon has shown signs of being really good, and he's one of my favorite wide receivers from this class. I think he's going to be fantastic for Tennessee, but at some point in the future. But I think for right now, with Josh Dobbs at quarterback, I don't like him as a start. And Robert Woods has been disappointing. So Woods, I'm going to sit this week as well, and get rid of those guys. As far as the rest of the wide receiver core for Tennessee, there's nothing really there that I want to jump into. And then finally, at the tight end position, we got Austin Hooper and Chig Okonkwo. Conk has had some really good games. Hooper has had some really good games. With a young quarterback, typically there's some target share for the tight end, but to me the problem is I don't know who's playing tight end. I don't know which guy is going to be the guy. So because of that, I don't really want to start either one of these guys. If I had to, held the gun to my head and said choose one, I would say Austin Hooper probably. But it's just there's nothing really there. So there's 2 options at tight end. I would go with neither of them on Thursday night. This situation for Tennessee, like if you have a Tennessee player at all, whether it's Hassan Haskins or Treylon Burks or Robert Woods or any of these tight ends, I would just steer clear. On the waiver wire, we talked about some tight ends. Can't remember who they are, but we talked about some tight ends that you would be able to start this week over them. Go back to that show, check it out, and see what we said about those particular players. But really interesting matchup. Like I said, Tennessee has got to win this game in order to stay in the playoff chase. If they win it, the entire season and division comes down to that one game against against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I still think the whole season is going to come down to that anyway, but they desperately need a win, even to stay in the wild card hunt. Because if they win the game and they go 8-8, there's a chance that they could lose the division, still make the playoffs in that third wild card slot that the Patriots and the Jets and the Miami Dolphins are all fighting for. So you could see that happen as well. But I'm just kind of sitting here at a point with the Tennessee Titans where it's like, they're going to get their doors blown off tonight, and their only chance at a playoff spot at this point is if they beat Dallas tonight. If they don't, they can still make it by beating Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's going to be raring and ready to go for that game. They're not playing just to eliminate somebody like they did last year against Indianapolis. They are freaking playing for the playoffs, and this is going to be a good game to see where T-Law goes next week. So should be interesting, but I'm going to take Dallas in this game. I think they cover the spread, and I also think that you should take the over in this game because I do think Dallas usually scores like 30-plus points, and I think they'll do that. And I think Tennessee's going to score more than 10. I mean, I would hope. Be a boring, horrible Thursday Night Football game. With that being said, I don't have a single player in this matchup in the playoffs right now. I'm in the championship in 2 leagues, and I don't have a Thursday Night Football game. So I'll watch. Should be interesting. But anyway, I guess I'll sign off. Thursday Night Football. Hopefully you enjoy it. Get your last Thursday Night Football game of the year and get the last time you hear Al Michaels, I think. Maybe he'll call a playoff game. But anyway, there you go, Cowboys, Titans. I'll take the Cowboys. Starts and sits tomorrow. See you later, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.